Hello, good evening. I'm sorry that I am a minute late. I had to go and powder my nose. Hi, Danny. Lovely to see you. Hi, Wicken. You're early but here. Thank you. Nice to have somebody waiting for me. What we put. Looking forward to the live. Me too. Jack the Ripper case is fascinating. Episodes being victim focused are so good. Oh, thank you. Even though I've just done the one. Well, it's second one tonight. On a side note, to see the drama videos that are being posted are funny. I know nothing about it, so I'm just sitting back giggling. Gotta love YouTube. Well, to be fair, Danny, it's absolutely ridiculous that there's a community that I'm not even a part of that just kind of they just seem to think that they have some kind of control over what everybody talks about on YouTube. Whereas, I just want to do my history and my chats and my silliness. So, but that had to be addressed, and now it's not. So, hi, Janet. Couldn't care less about that. Yeah, Wiccan, absolutely. Lovely to see you, ladies. Well, tonight, as you know, we are covering Annie Chapman's story. Hi, Simples. Lovely to see you. Come on in, grab a seat, get a drink, or a spliff, whatever is your poison. Hope you're all looking forward to Easter. I think the schools have broken up here in Lancashire today for a fortnight. So we've currently got I've got a portlet sitting here with me who is doing a revision. And as promised, she'll be nice and quiet, but you never know. Has you got the okay to go live tonight from the YouTube higher ups? And well, that's it, Danny. Do you know what I mean? Apparently, there was. I mean, I could give you a little bit of the background because it was absolutely ridiculous. It was like I was sent this screenshot. It was like, "Kiss My Axe went live twice on Saturday for 4 hours. How dare I?" Absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, no eggs apart from the real ones. Oh, Simples. I've got the every right to come on. And actually, Friday today is Freya's day, and I would have been called Freya if my dad got his own way. But as it was not a Catholic name, because obviously, as you know, I was brought up Catholic, I had to be christened what I'm christened instead of having a wonderful name. You might have to do that elsewhere because you're going to put me off. I've got little and singing in. I said you might have to do that elsewhere because you're going to put me off. She's got her earbuds in and she's doing like dancing and singing, and I can just see she's straight in front of me. So I need to concentrate on this one. So yeah, happy Freya's Day to everybody. The mother of cats. So anybody, oh Danny, that's actually a good one for you, isn't it? As a cat lover. And Simples. Oh, there you go. Hi, porklet from Janet.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Yeah, so she's doing, what are you doing?
Physics.
Physics revision. So, oh, and Danny's saying hello as well. So yes, Freya's Day, mother of cats.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Look, Janet. See, that's knackered you, hasn't it?
Bien.
Bien, she's saying. Because hi, little lady. Oh, did you like physics as well? Yeah, I was a science chick, Simples.
I'm good at maths, so I'm good at
Physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics. I don't know what that dog's doing there.
I'm going to get him his thingy.
There's nothing in it. He's eating it all. She said she's good, and you. Oh, there you go. Yeah, you see, I don't. I never learned Spanish.
Oh.
We've bought Cooper a treat today. Come here, sweetheart. Come here. He because he obviously, as you know, he gets very anxious. It's like basically it's like a piece of. It's just like stiff rubber with little bristles, like rubber bristles in it. that you put like a wet treat on, but this is like a half football. It's very tough. It's like a half a football size, and you kind of smear a wet treat on it, and then it's supposed to kind of, you know, keep them calm by concentrating and focusing on licking all this whatever you've put in. We use peanut butter, but he ate it. It was fine, and now he's gone back to being crazy. So there may be some little Cooper-like interruptions in a little while. Still, I'm reading Dopamine Nation. It started off fabulous about masturbation. Is it really? Or Dopamine Nation? Okay, I've not heard of that, Simples. I don't think I'd actually. I don't know if that's a topic I'd really want to be reading about. A sneaky little face. So yeah, we'll just give it a couple more minutes. I'll do what I usually do, and I will start at well, in 5 minutes' time at what would be 9:15 UK time. So as you all know, it's about addiction. Okay. As you'll know, I am going to be covering one victim per live. Kiefer, stop it. So the last one was Polly Nichols, and tonight we're going to cover Annie Chapman. And it's kind of also looking for anybody who wasn't here for the last one. Hi, Brian, my favourite old git. You're a cheeky get, you are. You really are one cheeky get. But thank you, and hello and welcome. Come in. Yeah, it's just trying to touch on the psyche of the killer as well. And I am not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I've got no training in that field. It's just a fascination that I've got with Jack the Ripper and the murders and my own theory on it. And this can dovetail in even with these women not being the prostitutes that they were branded, which is what I'm trying to show people. You know, that only one of these women was actually possibly a prostitute, and not the ones that you would think, or not the one that you would have thought. It's been quite surprising and quite sad, actually, doing you know, researching and going over some of this information. I've been told that there is a good book called The Five. Cassis mentioned it the last time. I hadn't heard of this. I'm going to get it. Apparently, this book has been based on. It is just basically looking at the what's it called? The God, I've got a brain fart. It's just looking at the victims, and the lady who's written the book has basically gone in. You know, she has managed to dig out information that would have never been known before, you know, actually pulling it all together. So I think that is going to be one of my little purchases. I'm going to be buying that book and having a read through of it, and just seeing how much I can link in with what I've got here. So yeah, didn't you miss the last one, didn't you, Janet? I think. So yeah, so I will kind of touch. I mean, Danny's better than I at this kind of stuff. You know, if anybody listened in on Danny's uploads, Scott Peterson is the latest one that I watched. Hi, Fern. You, Janet, Simples, Vic, and Danny and Brian. Hiya, hope you're all right. Come in, sit down, have a little listen. So, only got a couple more minutes, and then I'm going to start. Oh gosh, we've got, I don't know if you can hear that. We've got, sounds like there's somebody pissed in the street outside. Can you hear that?
No.
I think there's a drunk outside in the. Can you hear him now? That's your dad, but there's somebody out in the street. Yeah, sorry about this. It's just they were literally right outside. She's got her earphones in with music, but
Listening to Weezer.
Yeah. No, don't Cooper, please. No. Briefly, was you same couple of minutes then off to bed? Oh God, yeah, because you start at like 3-4 o'clock in the morning, don't you, Brian? Yeah. No, Brian's got a new job. He's driving for oh, what was it? Nice, you know, the Nice store
Oh,
now.
yeah.
Yeah, he's doing the driving for them.
Oh, right.
So I sound like Peter Kay. Can you hear me now? Yeah, no. Well, she had her earphones in. She's listening to music. Right. I'm going to start. I'm going to make a start. So, because I know there's other people listening. I know not everybody joins in. Hi, Night Owl. Hello. Have you noticed you're part of the Blue Crew? Welcome, welcome. Hope you're okay today. Right. So I'm going to make a start because I'm not going to do a very long one again tonight. I'm going to try and keep them as short as I can so that the information kind of sinks in rather than drooning on. So, as you all know, the year is 1888. We are in Whitechapel, which is in the City of London in Victorian England. And Whitechapel at this time, just a very, very brief background for anyone who's missed it. It was not a nice place to be. It was dark, it was dangerous, it was filthy, it was disease ridden. Dog has buggered off. I have to go find him. Oh, it's okay, Wicked. They'll find. Is it down the stables down the road? Isn't it? They found it the dog last time, covered in shite. So hopefully it's not going to be another one of those. Hopefully he's clean. Right. So yes, a Victorian England, absolutely dreadful. Not a good place to be. Not a good place to be if you were a woman. As we were saying last week, women didn't have a lot of options, especially working class women did not have a lot of options. If you did not fit into the acceptable categories of woman, which was either as a single daughter living in the family home, as a wife living under the roof of your husband, maybe even as a widow living either alone or with children, or a nun. And if you were none of those four, then God forbid, you were an outcast, you were nonconformist, you were looked down upon, you were shunned, ostracized, vilified, and even, well, you would be given labels. And usually the favourite label of the time was as an unfortunate, aka a prostitute. So there we are. That's a little bit of the background. So picking up from last week, we're in September 1888. A local woman has been murdered and mutilated, and the police have failed to catch her killer. And another awful discovery is about to be made. Inspector Chandler, who is out and walking in the vicinity of Hanbury Street, saw several men running down Hanbury Street. And when he hailed, you know, the people that were running down, he's told that another woman had been found murdered. Now, by the time he got to the scene, there was already a large crowd of people gathered. So he sent for the divisional surgeon and an ambulance to come down to the scene. Now, the doctor arrived and he estimated that the time of death was around about 4:30 a.m. Now, this was round about 6 a.m. that her body had been discovered. So around 4:30 a.m. is what the doctor estimated the time of death to be. The doctor also found that this victim was horrifically mutilated. By the time that her body was removed from the scene of her death, or where she was found, let's put it that way, from where she was found, they found a pile that was neatly stacked by her feet of the contents of her pocket, which had been cut open. Now, these little items, there was a piece of muslin which had been carefully folded, there was a comb, and then there was also another little hair comb that was in a case. Hi, Frida. Welcome, welcome. Now, this is only 8 days after Polly Nichols' murder. And this is just an horrendous scene in front of us. I mean, imagine being a police officer attending a scene like that and seeing such an awful, awful mess and dreadful injuries inflicted on a woman. And that would be really hard to try and contain your emotions, especially then. I mean, for the most part, women were to be protected, and I think we still should be, but women were the fairer sex. They were the, in inverted commas, the weaker sex. So to see this being done to somebody's wife, mother, daughter, sister, whatever, it would have been absolutely horrific. Um, and if you think about it, being the first officer at that, a scene like that, especially a crime scene that is that horrific, it must be incredibly traumatic for them. Um, this is something that would stay with you forever. I mean, today, if this happened, hi Green Eyes, hiya my love, welcome, welcome, coming in. And I've only just started. You've not missed much, maybe 4 or 5 minutes. Today, if a police officer or police officers were to come across a scene like that, they'd be in counselling. And we know it happens with some of the crimes that they say. My ex was a police officer. He had to have some counselling for a particular crime that I'm not going to go into details on. That traumatized him and the other officers who were on scene. So, but back then in the 1800s, that wasn't available to those officers. It's very similar to the First World War with the infamous shell-shocked soldiers. They had PTSD. They were shot for deserting. They weren't. These things weren't understood as they are now. This long-term impact of traumatic experiences. Don't forget, Emily Pankhurst was forming the WSPU in the 1880s. What? Sorry, phone. What's the WSPU? I don't mean to sound like I'm being really ignorant. Obviously, I am. I'm not as big on the suffragette movement, so I'm still not. I'm presuming that's the women's something. So we just briefly, we've touched on that scene, and I'm not going to go into the injuries. I've done this before, and this isn't about women's social and political union. Thank you, Fern. I wasn't sure about that. I gather the W was woman something or other. So I'm not going to go into the horrific injuries. We've gone through those before. I can go through them on another another time, but this, I'm trying to focus on these women. So anybody expecting to hear details, I'm not doing it tonight. Okay, so who was the woman? Right, well, in this group there was a lady called Amelia Palmer. She believed that she knew who this victim was, so off she went to the mortuary and she identified the woman as her friend, Annie Chapman. Now, like Polly Nichols, Annie has also been misunderstood. So we need to have a look at what her real story is. Just going to go get a coffee, just got up. Okay, Green Eyes, my love. Grab a nice thick coffee and come back and join us. Now, Annie's father was a soldier. He was a private in the British Army. And I mean, there's a little bit of a backstory here. So I hope I get this right because I didn't write all the details down. But apparently, back then, soldiers had to be given permission to marry. So, and there weren't many soldiers weren't given license to marry. They were few and far between. So what would happen is that, it even happens today, that there'd be a relationship between a soldier and his lady, and they wouldn't be allowed to marry. Things would happen. The lady would obviously fall pregnant, and you'd have to hope to God that they would either be given permission to marry or that her husband was not sent overseas to fight in one of the, the various campaigns that the British Empire were running at the time, because then she would really be destitute. And apparently this happened with Annie's parents. They had a couple of children, and then luckily, a couple of years down the line, they were given permission to marry, and the army backdated the date of their wedding to before the children were born, so that they were not illegitimate. Because even though they married and the children had both parents, because they'd been born prior to the real date they were married, if that date had been on record, they would still and always would be classed as illegitimate children. So luckily for them, the date of the wedding was backdated. I think it was like 2 years prior or something. And then her mum moved into the barracks, and this is what happened with a lot of the soldiers' wives. It wasn't like today where you kind of get army lodgings, you get a house or apartment or what have you. No, the families were living in the barracks that the soldiers were at, and there'd be like a curtain, blankets or curtains or something. Hi, Leah. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good evening. Come on in. Sit down. There'd be like curtains or blankets on bits of string or rope at the bottom, separating the wives and the children from the barracks that the men were, the beds where the men were sleeping. And by all accounts, it was absolutely minging. It was filthy. Not an ideal place, but eventually they moved out. Now, the army provided education for families, so Annie was really fortunate to have an education, very much like Polly. So if you think back to what we know about these victims, we've always been led to believe that these were very low, at the real lower end, working class, ignorant, uneducated, poverty-stricken women. And we're on the second victim, and both have had an education. And so Annie is fortunate enough to have this education that is paid for by the army. And like Polly, as a girl in the working classes, that was relatively unusual. These were two quite privileged working class girls. Now, as time goes on, she ends up having a lot of younger siblings, and it becomes a very large and actually quite a happy family. As she gets a bit older, she becomes a servant, as most girls, of that time and class do. And with an education, she can actually get a better class of position, with a wealthier family. So you get the ladies' maids, and rather than being a scullery maid or something lower, she can read and write. She's been educated. Her family are very respectable, so she gets a better class of position within a household. Now, she then goes on to marry one of the upper servants in that household, and I don't know if any of you have ever seen, there is a photograph of Annie and her husband, and they actually they look quite well to do on this photograph. I wouldn't look at this photograph of these two and think they're two servants. They actually look like, upper working class, lower middle class family. They're very austere. They've got that very dour Victorian look, which apparently you had to have because it took that long for the frames to develop when a photograph was taken, that you had to stay completely rigid faced, so it didn't blur. But this photograph, it does not lead you to believe that this is in any way, shape, or form an ignorant, uneducated, rough, and incredibly low born woman or man. So they definitely look very respectable as well. They look well set up. And the other thing to remember is that the mere taking of photographs at this time in the 1800s, that also shows a certain status. Even amongst their own class, they're still a level above. It's outwardly, look, we're doing very well for ourselves. Now, That's just a little bit of background on Annie and her husband. They are not what I would have thought. I genuinely thought when I've read books about them, I've read the stories, you hear, you watch films, you watch documentaries, and you only because we base our opinions on what these women are like in later life. When by the time they meet their very untimely ends, um, they're already on a very slippery slope due to unfortunate circumstances, but this shouldn't define who they are. We forget, and unfortunately, we have forgotten about, you know, these women had a life before they became victims. Now, let's have another little look at the killer. So we'll jump from Annie and we'll jump back to the killer. So there's a certain thought process here that did the killer leave actually an important clue in the damage that he did to Annie's clothing? And the reason I'm asking this is because in the coroner's inquest, which was held on Thursday, the 13th of September in 1888, there's a little mention here. Hi, Lady Witch. Happy Freya's Day. Now, what it actually says in the inquest is that no part of this woman's clothing was torn apart from a large pocket. Now, this was the pocket that was mentioned earlier, that she'd kept her little treasures in, really. Now, what you also need to know, oh, sorry, I'll just address Frida's comment. I would have hated to live in Victorian times. Poor people. I probably would have ended up in a workhouse. Yeah, me as well, Frida. Or prison. They were highly regarded servants, hence it's a photograph for a wedding gift. Yeah, they were. They were very well thought of, very respectable. So I think there's a little bit of a lag there, Fern, with your chat. Not a problem though. So I'm sorry if anybody asked questions or what have you. That just looks like there's a bit of a lag with Fern stuff anyway. I'll keep an eye on. But if I don't answer you straight away, it's because it's not come through on my screen yet. Okay, so we'll go back to this. No part of this woman's clothing was torn apart from a large pocket, and this had been cut down the side and the contents had been removed. These were what were found near her feet. Now, when I'm saying a pocket, I don't mean a pocket like we know, a pocket in a pair of jeans or trousers or a skirt, coat, what have you. This was actually like a bit like a bag more than anything, which was actually worn under the different layers of skirts, and it hung from a string. Now, it's a very intimate item, because of where it is. And is this somebody that's motivated by, the fascination about women's bodies and the secret areas and the intimate areas and the intimate things that they carry, or that touch certain intimate areas of the body, the way that this is the only thing that's been cut with a knife, Now, were there any items missing? Were her friends asked were any items missing? Did the killer take any trophies to fantasize about at a later date? These were questions the police should have been asking. Welcome back, Green Eyes. If things were taken, this would indicate someone who, privately, they're actually very disturbed, but probably they're not showing any outward signs of how disturbed they actually are, because they're saving this fantasy, this going back to look over trophies, to revisit the crime for private moments. Now, if we go back to these items that were found near her feet, these two combs, this shows that despite her present situation, which we're going to talk about in a moment, Annie still cared enough about her appearance to actually make an effort. Now, in Victorian society, if you could maintain an air of respectability, then people were likely to trust you a bit more. They wouldn't look down on you as much, and she tried. So although she was managing to maintain, an outward semblance of respectability, um, as tatty as she may have looked, she was still trying to act respectably. But behind the scenes, her life was it was actually falling apart, and it's really sad. The couple, her and her husband, they seem to do very, very nicely. They've got children. They're they've got children. They've got these careers. They're well thought of, but alcohol has now crept into the marriage. There is a lot of anecdotal evidence from friends, acquaintances, or what have you, that Annie liked to drink. And she was starting to drink heavier as time passed, but her husband was also a drinker. Now, alcohol, on the whole, played an enormous part in Victorian society at all social levels. It wasn't just the working class, the upper class. All social levels, alcohol played some form of a part. But at the bottom of the social scale, or the social ladder, which is really where Annie and the other victims of Jack the Ripper were, alcohol was the way that people kind of anaesthetised themselves. And they did this to cope with poverty, the grim living conditions, to help them combat the cold, the wet, the damp, the hunger, illness, loss, disease, death. It just all sorts of things. It was all they had, and it was cheap. We've talked about this before. People were brewing up vats of gin in the baths, that horrendously strong that it was stripping the enamel off the baths and the sinks that they were brewing it in. And this was what people were drinking to escape. And it's really, really sad. It's really sad. That's the only thing that they had. Now, many people from all walks of life fell into alcohol abuse. It was Frida. It was Janet said, was the killer trying to cut away the victim's character, depersonalized kind of thing? Maybe, Janet. I mean, as you know, I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I don't claim to be. I can only give you, some thoughts. I can give you other people's thoughts on it. I think it was the way that the purse had been cut, and where it, the proximity of it to her, areas of her anatomy, shall we say. I think there was possibly a sexual violence element to the cutting open of the purse. I think it was symbolic, but that's just my thoughts. I could be wrong. I probably am, but I think that the slicing open of that was symbolic prior to what he did to her. Now, so as I was saying, many people from all walks of life were falling into this alcohol abuse, and this marriage, with the alcohol being abused by both, husband and wife, it just became a recipe for disaster. And in the end, Annie and her husband separated. Now, initially, he supported her financially, and she was given by him 10 shillings a week to live on. And actually, that was a very good amount of money. She could live relatively well on that without any other income. And initially everything was okay, but 2 years prior to a murder, this financial support suddenly stopped, and this was because her estranged husband died from cirrhosis of the liver as a result of his drinking. Um, Now, without this money, her situation became more and more desperate. Now, her family were aware of this, and she was repeatedly asked to come home by her mother and her sisters. And, things would have probably been very different if she'd have taken that. Yes, Fern, yeah, one of her children. Yeah, he was quite young. I mean, you know, child death was a way of life, for want of a better word, in Victorian England, and especially in Whitechapel. A lot of children didn't make it to the fifth birthdays. A lot of children didn't make it to the second birthdays. The statistics are quite horrific. I should have actually got some of those, because when you read them, you realise exactly how dire things were. On a little note of that, I'm gonna go off on one here. My granddad, his parents, I think I've told you about this. The little what should we call it? The little bit of controversy. He had an older sister that none of us knew about. Oh, all right, Brian, off to bed. Yeah, sleep well. Thank you for coming in, and I will see you no doubt very soon, where you can continue to take the piss out of me. But thank you for coming in. It's been really good to see you, Chuck. Take care, drive safe, have a good day. Yes, so this sister that we never knew my granddad had, and it was an older sister. She died when my granddad was about 4 or 5 years old. So we were thinking he would have known about her, but she was never ever mentioned. She died when my aunt was doing the birth, our family tree on that side. And she found all of this information, found that she would have had an auntie that she didn't know existed. And when she found the death certificate, she'd actually died of complications from a tooth abscess. This was before penicillin was available. And it's quite sad. So it's little things like that. So I lost a relative that none of us knew existed from something as simple as an abscess on the tooth. So if you think about, 20 years prior to this, 25 years prior to this, because my granddad was born in, oh gosh, I've got to think now, 1912? I know he's quite a lot older than my nana. Hi, Cassius. Welcome. Yeah, I've probably only been going half an hour, Cassius, if that. So it shouldn't be too difficult. So thinking that, not that much before was this time of Jack the Ripper, and kids are dying from colds. You die from a common cold. You definitely would die from flu. And you only have to go then to from 1888 when this occurred to 1918, so 20 years, when Spanish flu hit and wiped out such a massive proportion of the population. So it's dreadful to think that these children, they didn't get to, many of them didn't reach 10, and those that did, what kind of life did they have? Especially living in the slums in Whitechapel. These two ladies we're talking about, they actually, for working class people, had quite privileged upbringings. These were not the norm. They weren't the norm. So anyway, sorry, I'd gone off on a tangent. So, but that was, just to answer Fern's point that she made. So her mum and her sisters repeatedly begged her to come back to the family home, come and live with us. She was in a dreadful state. They knew that she was basically going to become destitute. But here's the problem: Annie was still drinking. Her family were teetotalers, lifelong teetotalers, and Annie, she was so addicted to alcohol she couldn't live without it. And so she chose to live on the street with her alcohol addiction rather than go home and live without it. And that is basically what sealed her fate. And it's so, so sad, because she was lucky in that she would have had a very strong family network there to support her. If she could have just walked away from the alcohol, they would have helped to get over that addiction. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. So anyway, we're going to go to her last moments in the hours before her death, and this will show how dangerous her situation had become. So on the night that she died, we've got 5 sightings of her confirmed. I know, Frida, if she'd have gone home, but it's again, isn't it, coulda, woulda, shoulda. And if what is it? If wishes were horses, then beggars would ride. It's so sad. So I'm just going to get a sip of me brew because I've got a mouth like Gandhi's flip flop. Yorkshire tea, yum yum. Okie dokie. So yeah, as I said, we've got 5 definite sightings of her on her last night alive. So the first one at 12:20 a.m. she returned to Crossingham's lodging house, which was 35 Dorset Street. Now, excuse me, she was then, so that was at 12:20 in the morning. At 12:30 in the morning, she is with a fellow lodger by the name of Fred Stevens, and they are sitting having a beer together. You know, they're having a jolly old time. Then at 1 in the morning, so half an hour later, Stephen sees her leaving the lodging house, and he believes that she's going to the Britannia pub. Now, she's probably going to go and get a jug of gin or what have you, but off she goes to the Britannia pub. Now, half an hour later at 1:30 a.m, back she comes to the lodging house, and she is then eating a baked potato in the kitchen. And at this point, she doesn't have her money for her lodgings. But what is quite sad here is that she's absolutely, I think the American phrase would be shitty ass drunk. She's blind drunk. And at 1:50 a.m, once again, she leaves the lodging house. She's staggering all over the place and she leaves. Now, why did she leave at 10 to 2 in the flipping morning when she was so drunk? Was this just a case, once again, a woman who has got no money for lodgings, who has to leave and decide, you know what, I'll just sleep on the street tonight. I might bump into somebody who can sub me and pay for me a room, or lend me the money, or I'll just find a doorway somewhere. Was that it? Or had she arranged to meet somebody? It's just the fact that up she gets and out she goes. She's backwards and forwards. Had she bumped into somebody at the Britannia when she went off there? Because that's where Fred Stevens believed she was going to. And she bumped into someone at the Britannia, said, I'm just going to go back to my lodgings for something to eat. I'll see you in a bit. It could have been that. Who knows? Who knows? Because she didn't say anything to anybody, But if she'd arranged to meet someone, if there'd been a pre-arrangement, is this why she felt safe to leave that lodging house at 10 to 2 in the morning? And I guess we'll never know. And the other thing is as well that's worth bearing in mind is that from that last sighting at 1:50 a.m. until her body was found at around 6 a.m, that's almost 4 hours. Where'd she been in that time? Where was she? Now, there's a woman, this made me laugh because I actually know a woman with the identical name, a woman called Liz Long. She believes that she saw Annie at around 5:30 in the morning, which wouldn't really fit in because if you remember, the doctor reckoned that she'd been murdered at around 4:30. Now, Liz could have been mistaken by the time. The doctor could have been wrong in his estimate as well. But anyway, Liz Long, she told the police and she told the coroner, and she very happily told the press that at 5:30 a.m, she believes that she saw Annie with a gentleman. Now, she claims that she heard the man ask Annie, will you? And Annie said yes. Now, based on that little snippet, this was all the proof that the press, the police, and Victorian society needed to label her a prostitute. A man asked, will you? And she answered yes. And that was all it took. He could have been asking her, will you meet me at the pub tomorrow night? Will you? Yes. Will you babysit for me? Will you? Yes. Could you do me some laundry? Will you? Yes. It could have been anything at all. But no. Straight away, he's asked, will you? She said yes. There we go. She's a prostitute. So I'll just look in the chat. Oh, sorry, have I missed something here? Let's have a little look. They went with a family. Oh, her children. Yeah, the children had gone back, her mother and sisters. That's why they wanted her to join them, Leah. You know, they wanted her to come back and join the family. And unfortunately, she didn't do that. It is, Janet, it is awful to presume. But like I said, these women who weren't with husbands, were living rough, were alcoholics, they were automatic. She's not typed in since, Fern. She only typed in right at the beginning. I'm just having a look. Yeah, no, Lady Witch has only typed in the ones right at the beginning. She just said, hi, happy Friday. I had to look all the way back. Right, so let me go back. So this Liz Long and her statement, that was all that they needed. Now, let me just get to my next bit. You know, why was can't see Sid and realise I'm on a lag. I can't see. I don't think Sid's in. I can't see Sid. But Sid can't see. Frida and Sid can't see. Sorry, Frida can't see Sid either. There's something going on with his account. We've tried for weeks and weeks and months to get this sorted out. So they just have to accept that they can't see each other, and I pass messages between the two. Case Leah, that's a shame she didn't go back to her family. They seem like good people taking her children. Yeah, and the thing is, they were a good, stable family unit, you know. She grew up with mother and father. She was educated by the army. You know, there was a steady income coming in. The moment that she fell on hard times, straight away the family stepped in. They looked after the children. The moment that her money stopped, they knew about it. You know, they'd obviously kept track of her. They knew where she was. They knew what she was going through. They knew when it became imperative that they stepped in. And yet the pull of the drink. Oh, as Janet's saying there, the addiction to drink was too strong for her. Yeah. So, you know, unfortunately, this is where she ended up. Now, you know, as I said, why was society so oh gosh, can't even speak tonight. Why was society so swift to label her? You know, was there any evidence that she was a prostitute? Now, outside of the popular press, none whatsoever. The press ran with this, and unfortunately, the press, you know, for all intents and purposes, they led the direction that this investigation went and moved in. They led the direction that the police were. They led the direction that the police were looking and searching and. Oh, hi there. I'm late. Hubby, 60th meal tonight. Back now. Oh, Julia. Hello and happy birthday, husband. Hope you had a lovely time. I'll finish when I've finished reading all of this, Julia. We'll have a little catch up. Sorry about the coughing. That's Porklet in the background. But she was an alcoholic. No help for alcoholics in those days, sadly. To be honest, Frida, there's very little help for them now. You know, my friend's brother, he died of alcoholism. Well, alcohol-related liver and kidney failure. He had mass organ failure, to be honest. And she fought to get him some help. She said, you know, if you're drug addicted, you can get into rehab, but there's very little help available free of charge for alcoholics, and it's such a shame. Yeah, we've done all this. We'll sing happy birthday to him for you, Julia. So now, so as I said, outside of the popular press, there wasn't any evidence whatsoever that she was a prostitute. Now, indeed, get this, her friends described her quite differently. You know, when she was sober, she was described as a very industrious lady. She was very intelligent, but the press and the police consistently pressed everyone who knew her into trying to get them to confirm that she was a prostitute. But without exception, they all denied this was the case. There was no exception, not even anybody who may have not particularly liked her. Not a single person was prepared to or did say that she had ever been a prostitute, ever, been a sex worker anyway, that she had ever lived any form of an immoral life. The only immorality, and I'm going to use that in inverted commas, was her drinking habits. When she was sober, she took very respectable work for people. Um, sober periods became fewer and fewer, but she was not a prostitute. And they couldn't find anybody to say that she was. All of this based on Liz Long saying she heard that one conversation. And was it Annie? It may not have even been Annie, because she's saying she saw her a full hour after the doctor said that this woman had been murdered. He said about 4:30. Liz Long reckons that she saw her at 5:30. A body was found probably half an hour after Liz Long allegedly said she saw her. Who can say? We're never going to know that either. So the issue with this, with the police pushing people and the press running with the prostitution story, the figures of authority at the time, they were looking to fit her into a box. It's much easier. Fit this victim into a box. It's much easier. So we've now got this guy is out killing prostitutes. What? Another prostitute has been found walking the streets. Another prostitute found dead in a gutter. Another prostitute. It was just so much easier than saying, well, we've got one lady who was down on a luck. We've got another lady, very respectable, but she happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's too complicated that we've got a choking porklet in the kitchen there. So no, Leah, there wasn't help with anything, and especially for women, there wasn't much help for anybody. But women, no, absolutely not, absolutely not, and that was why so many of them did turn to prostitution. It was the only way. They got no help from the state. Most of the time, they got no help from the parishes that they were in. There were so many people were destitute that there was a very, very long queue of outstretched hands. And if you managed to get anything, you were incredibly lucky. So, how do you feed yourself and potentially any children that you have? It's not a far stretch to see why women did go down that route, and why at that time, in that particular year, 1888, there were estimated approximately 80,000 prostitutes in London. The youngest, this is awful, the youngest of which was approximately 6 years old. Now, again, I don't like the way that was described, saying that there was a 6-year-old prostitute. A child cannot be a prostitute. I'm sorry, but they can't. That was a victim of abuse and trafficking. Yes, Leah, 6. I know, it's awful. Because the reason that came about, which we're going to cover on one of the other victims as well, is that there was this myth in Victorian England that if a man had syphilis, you could cure it by sleeping with a virgin. And as you can imagine, syphilis was rife in certain quarters of London at that time, Whitechapel being one of them. There were a lot of prostitutes. This disease was flying around and being spread left, right, and centre, and willy-nilly. And so most men, once they heard this myth, wanted to sleep with a virgin. And as you can imagine, virgins were becoming fewer and fewer and fewer, and in shorter and shorter supply. And so the ages were getting younger and younger and younger. And as sick as it is, yeah. So, and it doesn't even birth thinking about it. Doesn't even, I can't even, yeah, makes me feel sick to my stomach. But different times, different times. So, I know, Leah. I know. Yeah. You can't even imagine. You can't even imagine. A lot of serial killers, even today, choose prostitutes as victims. They are alone, maybe estranged from the family. That's it. They're in high risk professions, aren't they? Sorry, low risk. Yeah. You know, if they're in high risk of danger, but it's a low risk for the killers. You know, people like us, we're high risk for them. You know, we have jobs, houses, partners, husbands, children, families. It's we most of the time aren't worth the risk for a serial killer, whereas prostitutes are. You know, like you say, estranged from the families. They may have addiction issues. They may be homeless. They're out on their own in isolated areas at all hours of the day and night, trying to find something. They're prepared to get into a vehicle with a stranger. You know, so it's high risk for the prostitute, but low risk for the serial killer. And when they weigh up what the risk factor is, you know, it's such a shame. It's such a shame. So, as I said, they were looking to try and fit these victims into a box along with the killer, because then it's much easier to deal with, really, to talk about. And once Polly and Annie were named as prostitutes, that was all they were. You know, nobody bothered to then argue, you know, other than sorry, other than, sorry about that, coughing. Other than their friends, I'm going to knock this door to, actually. Just bear with me a second. Oh, I'm just going to knock the door to.
I think I'm done.
Okay, Cooper, come away. So, other than their friends who, you know, would try and defend them, you know, initially, and in the end, they would give up because nobody's listening to them. But to society, to the press, to the police, that's all they were. They were just prostitutes. And the papers were stoking the public paranoia, you know, and because they were doing this, it then became the killer rather than his victims who took the centre stage. Never mind poor Porklet. Puh,
Whoa.
puh.
I'm
No,
very ill right now.
no, well, you know, you can't cough and ruin my live stream. So, yeah, it's like the victims were swept under the carpet. That's it, Janet. The victims have been completely forgotten in all of this. All we ever think about the victims is there were 5 prostitutes and they were all rough. They were all rough, and at the bottom rung of the ladder, they were the lowest of the low. And yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible to think that, you know, we've allowed this to happen. So, so the newspapers, they are deliberately trying to sell fear. So as their sales increase, because that's what it's all about, selling copy, isn't it? As their sales increased, then the stories and the coverage of these victims, it became more gory, more gruesome, more lurid. The stories of who they thought that the ripper was, you know, who the murderer was, a monster, blood soaked, gory, you know, a demon. All of these words being used, they were being used to basically put the fear of God into everybody. You know, and this was just because they wanted to sell the papers. So they didn't care that their stories were, as they were winding the public up into this frenzy of fear, they were also diverting the police's attention, because the police are reading the newspapers as well. They're picking up these daily sheets that are updated 4 or 5 times a day, you know, with another gruesome detail that most of the time weren't true. They're reading it, so they go into their job. They're on the beat. They're doing what have you. They're now looking for this monster with pointy teeth and huge nails and that looks like a demon. They're not looking at Joe Bloggs in the street who's walked past them, who's probably the murderer anyway, because he doesn't look like a monster, does he? That's right, Fern. People wanting to see the crime scene. You know, at Annie Chapman's murder, there were that many people. You know, the police had to fight to get through. You know, they're all having a good old good old look and a rummage. And you know, the press were there straight away. They would pay people, you know, if you heard there was a murder, if you could get on that scene straight away. So if you had somebody that could run to a local reporter and get them down there before the police arrived, you know, they'd do the best. They'd take a sketch. They'd have it in the paper before the police had got the body away from the scene. This is how bad it was. So we've got these two women now murdered and mutilated. And in a rush to label these women, have the police, as I've just said, have they lost sight of his possible identity and his true motives? Now, you know, the items that were taken, they may hold some clues. So, as I said before, you know, that little pile of items that were out of her purse, her pocket, shall we say, that were placed near her feet. But what else was missing? You know, and had the police asked around? Did they find out what, you know, the people who knew her best? What does she carry in this pocket? Is everything that she carried here? You know, is it all here? Hang on, have you finished?
Yeah.
Hang on, sorry, the dog's mooching around. Cooper, sit down and stop mithering. Stop it. So let's look at the items now. Dr. Phillips. Oh, what have we put here? Yeah, they still. Yeah, they do try and do it now, Lady Witch. Absolutely true. So, Dr. Phillips, in his report, he says it looks like rings had been wrenched from her fingers. Now, they weren't there. These rings had gone. So, you know, are they the trophies that he'd taken away? But also, another trophy, part of a reproductive system was missing. And again, I'm not going into great detail, but, you know, so these rings had been wrenched off and he'd taken part of her reproductive system. And the thing is, if you look at it, can you think of any more misogynistic act? You know, and if you look at the way that Annie was brutalized, I think it's pretty damn certain, even if we don't know, you know, at this point, what we do know further on about the number of victims, even if we are approaching this blindly, and there's a pretty high degree of certainty that this killer is the same killer of Polly. You know, and how unusual are these two killings? You know, how many more people are likely to? Well, it could be, Leah. Could it be woman issues? Woman issues, mummy issues. Could he have been jilted? You know, was he somebody who? I mean, you don't know. Was it somebody with woman envy? Could it have been somebody who, in today's society, would maybe have a sex change? They want to be a woman. These women are, but although I'm saying that, and I'm not 100% convinced on that one because, as you know, trans people, for the most part, are actually the least likely people to commit and these kind of murders. They do tend to be quite gentle souls. And I know I'm generalizing, but the rule of thumb is the likelihood is that wouldn't be someone. It might have been someone with an effed up idea of it. It might have been someone with a, you know, a bit of a messed up idea of I want to be a woman, but not really. I just don't know. Surgeon or a gynecologist. Well, yes. Now I think one of them was a surgeon. Me and Janet sing from the same page on this one. Yeah, it's not limited to the media anymore, Lady Witch, at all. I mean, God, we only have to look on YouTube, don't we? Back in a minute. Okay, green eyes, lovely. I hope that's not a euphemism. Yeah, Janet and I do both think more than one was involved. And the thing is, as I've said before, with my theory as to who Jack the Ripper is, stroke was, stroke are, the professions of these women, it doesn't matter, so they don't have to be prostitutes, sex workers, or whatever, for that theory on who the Ripper are that I have, that Janet shares with me. It wouldn't change that. It wouldn't change it at all. It's just that I feel so bad that I've thought for all this time that I've just gone with the narrative. Now, just going to look at a few statistics, just so you can get an idea of what it was like, because, as I said, how unusual are these two killings for that time? What's the likelihood that more people are going to die? So if we look at the statistics in 1888, so murders in 1888, 76 men were murdered, 111 women were murdered. Now, jump to today, that's switched. It's there'll be more women. There'll be more men murdered than women today. But back then, there were far more women murdered than men. These are the ones that they'd found as well. Now, the other difference as well with in murders is that today, the conviction rate is pretty high. We still have unsolved murders. There are still a lot of cold cases, but today we can process a conviction without having a body. And there is a family that I know. I don't know if any of you have heard of the Helen McCourt murder. And it happened in the 1980s. I know that family. And her killer, Ian Sim, he was convicted. They've never found Helen's body. The family still go out trying to find, getting soil samples, because there was soil in his car. They have still never been able to match that sample with anything that may help them trace her body, but he was convicted. So that's the difference. Whereas back in 1888, there were very few convictions for murders, and there were only 3 ways to really do this. Either you caught the murderer in the act, there was a very credible witness to the murder who could identify the murderer, or there was a confession. They were the only ways that you got convictions. And as you can imagine, there were very few. Now, the way I'm just going to wind this up again is that if we look at Polly and we're looking at Annie, is it possible that these weren't his first victims? Now, 3 weeks prior to all of this going on, most of you will have heard of a lady called Martha Tabram, or Tabram. I was always told it was Tabram. Now, Martha was found in a doorway, and she had been brutally stabbed. 39 stab wounds. They think that it was possibly with something like a bayonet. And funny enough, she had been seen in the company of a soldier earlier the evening of her death. Now, a lot of people try and link Martha with Jack the Ripper, and yeah, there are. Yeah, I would say there are probably as many people include Martha as don't. She isn't one of the canonical 5, but she's always brought up in Ripper investigations. Now, she was found in a similar type of a location as the other victims, but the wound pattern that she suffered was very different. The difference in her wounds with these 39 stab wounds, the puncturing and the lacerations, compared to what happened to the victims of the Ripper, to Annie, to Polly. There's a difference there in the psychological need that's being met, stabbing compared to severe mutilation. So I don't think, and I never have done, that Martha was kind of they're just totally different. Usually you'll get a serial killer, they'll escalate, won't they? They'll start off small and then they'll grow and grow and grow, and they'll get more accomplished and more confident. And oh, there you go, Janet. I think the killers were accomplished in the killing with many practice runs before. So but there'll be some kind of similarity. Well, there isn't with Martha and the Ripper victims. Hers, it's totally different. Yeah, it's vicious. Yes, it's violent. Yes, it's complete overkill, but it's completely different. That's stabbing as opposed to slashing and ripping. So
How come they knew that the other people were the Ripper victims, even though they didn't know who he was?
just because of the similarity to the injuries,
Oh,
the way that the throats were cut, the way that they were mutilated, because they could tell which hand, were they left-handed or right-handed, and it was the absolute, it was the viciousness, and it was the way that he focused a lot of his anger on the female parts, whether it was the boobs or the new-news or what have you. Sorry, guys and girls, I am talking in baby code because we've got a 13-year-old in the room. The new-news, the little bits and pieces. But yeah, he was. It was the way that he attacks and what he attacks.
Oh, right.
So, and that's with serial killers, that tends to be the way that it happens. Okay. All right. So the other thing is the areas as well that he's killing. So, put yourself in his position. And this is what's really weird, so he's this murderer. So right, I'm a murderer, right? I've killed and I really want to go out and kill again. Really want to go out and kill again. It's this overwhelming need that I've got. What do I do? Right, so for my second murder, I'm not going to go in the same place. I'm going to go as far away as possible that I can possibly get to feasibly with the time that I've got, as far as possible away from my first, the site of my first murder. And he doesn't do that. He's only half a mile away. He's only half a mile away from where Polly was murdered to where Annie was murdered. Half a mile. So what does that tell you? He's familiar, local to that area, and therefore he's more comfortable remaining in this location. He knows the rat runs, he knows the alleyways, he knows, look at Hanbury Street. Yeah, he is very confident, Leah. He's that particular place where the body was found. There's only one entry, one point of entry or exit. That's a risky, bloody place to do it. But this killer knows that there is no light there. Nobody's going to come walking down there. It's a pretty isolated area. And he's got the confidence to do it. And yeah, so I think that's why he's staying there. That's why he doesn't go further afield. And all of these murders are located in that, you draw a circle and they're all fitted in quite a small radius in that area of London. So, just to round up this little bit of on Annie. So the police are hunting for an imaginary prostitute killer. But what we need to remember is that the press have labelled him a prostitute killer. The police are going along with that label of him being a prostitute killer. How does he know these women are prostitutes? Is he walking up to them and saying, "Excuse me, are you a lady of the night?" "Yes, okay, hang on a second, I'll cut your throat." Unless he's stalking them and he sees these women picking up Johns and doing what they do, he's got no way of knowing that these women are prostitutes. No way. They don't look any different to any other respectable but down on the luck woman living in Whitechapel in that area. And there were plenty of them as well. There were washerwomen, there were laundresses, there were seamstresses. I think all were known to the killer. But I think so, Janet. I think one of them definitely knew. Well, Yeah, and we will, and you know what, I think we will cover this after I've gone through this. We will revisit what my theory is. So he could have been a customer, Leah. If we go down that route, that he was a prostitute killer, yeah, he could have been a customer. There was a theory that he had been a customer of a prostitute and had contracted syphilis and was going mental because of it. He maybe seen them hanging around that area at night. Yes, Frida, and again, these are women at high risk but low risk to the killer. You know, the 24/7 lifestyle. Yes, it was, Fern. Yes, it was. But what we've got to remember is that unless he knew without a shadow of a doubt that these women were prostitutes, and we've already now looked at the fact that they weren't, there is no evidence whatsoever that these women ever worked in prostitution or any form of sex work. So because he can't confirm this himself, he's not waging a war on prostitutes, he's waging a war on women themselves. You know, and the problem is that if his victims, if their true stories hadn't been dismissed, could the killer have been caught? You know, could he have been caught before he moved on to victim number 3 or 4 or 5? You know, and that's what we have to ask ourselves. And that is thanks to the press. That is thanks to Victorian society, their obsession with labelling. And that's thanks to the police because they didn't get the fingers out when they should have done. You know, they didn't close the press down. Unfortunately, they didn't really have the power to close the press down. Each room has 14 people, night and day, up to 14 in a room. Yeah. Yeah, the way that they, yeah, we just don't know, do we? As I said, I have a theory on who I think it is. So that's me covering Annie Chapman. So our next victim is going to be Long Liz Stride, Elizabeth Stride. So yeah, she's the third victim. We've got Polly Nichols or Mary Ann. We've got Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Marie Jeanette or Mary Jane Kelly.
The only two that I recognise is Elizabeth Stride and Mary Jane Kelly.
Yeah, Mary Jane Kelly's the last one, and she was the worst of the victims. Oh. Everything that was done to her. Yeah, he got the only one he didn't was Liz, Long Liz, and we'll cover her on the next one. And her life is pretty sad, but I don't want to do her tonight. I just want to make sure that each lady has their own evening. But yeah, Liz's story is quite sad. So there you go. I think he hated women. These women were easy to... Yeah, absolutely they were, Frida. Absolutely they were. He, yeah, as I said, it's a war on women. It's not just a war on prostitutes. You know, whatever his reasons were, or their reasons were, we just have to remember that because, you know, there's either a presumption made that any woman out at night was a prostitute, or it was just any woman that he happened to come across. It didn't matter, but he was going to exact whatever revenge or twisted mutilations that he decided to do on them, you know, for whatever his reasons. Oh, thank you, Leah. That's really kind of you. Thank you. I'll put that up on my screen. I just feel bad that I've gone down that road and that route of Jack the Ripper's victims all being prostitutes. And as I said, there is only one that the likelihood is that she actually was a prostitute. You know, and willingly so, not doing it through you know, destitution like these other ladies would have been forgiven for having done it. You know, Polly and Annie had terribly hard lives, just, you know, up to the final, you know, the final days. You know, they could be forgiven. No problem, Fern. Thanks for coming in, chicken. I'm winding up on this, so I'm just going to do a bit of a general chit chat with everybody. I'm just wondering where Wiccan's gone, if she's managed to catch that dog of hers yet, because it did a runner. Yeah, bye Finn from Janet. So yeah, I don't know. Anybody got any questions or wanting to talk about Annie or any of the others? To be fair, I mean, I don't mind. I just yeah, it was looking into this, and I actually feel incredibly guilty, and I can't shake this guilt off myself. You know, for having had this impression. I don't know. Cassius mentioned it. I've not got the book, Janet. I think it's called The Five. No, Julia. No, most of them actually. I can tell you because I have everything written down here with the ages. Me and my notebook. No, Polly. So these are at the time they were murdered. Polly was 43. Annie was 47. Liz Stride was 44, Catherine was 46, and the only one who would have been probably still capable of bearing children was Mary Jane Kelly. She was 24 or 25 at the time. Yes, if Cassis is still there, Janet, I don't know. He mentioned the book. I think he said it was called something like The Five. I think. The lady's got like a foreign name. I'll try and find that out for you, and I can put it in the comments against this live. I do think there was more than one killer, Leah. I think there were 3 people who were working together for a particular reason. I mean, my thoughts, I believe it was Sir William Withygull, who was a Queen's surgeon. I believe they were working. Oh, bye, Fern. I'm still 12 minutes behind. Oh, there you go. Hallie Rubinold, The Five. That's it, Janet. Yeah, so Cassius mentioned that the other day. I've never heard of this book, so I'm going to treat myself to that because I'd like to read more about these ladies. So yeah, sorry, Leah. As I was saying, my theory is Sir William Withygull, the Queen's surgeon, working with John Netley, who was a carriage driver for Prince Albert, and then the painter Walter Sickert. And I believe all 3 of them were working together. And I have kind of covered it in. If you go into some of my lives, I've got one which is All Roads Lead to Cleveland Street. Janet's the same as me. We both have the same theory. If you have a look at my live, if you want to, Leah, All Roads Lead to Cleveland Street. I kind of touched on it there. But I just love the Ripper case. I love it. Says me, who's not a true crime fanatic, but yeah, I'd love to get to the bottom of it. And again, you know, none of us can say anybody else is wrong in what we think. You know, because we're never going to know. We're never going to know unless there are some documents hidden away in the police archives. Oh, I'd love a time machine to go back, Janet. I really would. But unless there is something hidden in the police archives that will categorically identify who this murderer was, none of us can say anybody else is wrong. We're all we can all do is just have theories and stick with our own theories, and we can maybe debate others, but I wouldn't have the right to tell anybody else they were wrong. I mean, Bam and I had this discussion, and we did that live that she covered, where we were doing the Ripper victims and going through some of their injuries. And again, I think that's still up on Bam's channel. You can go back and listen to that. And I was talking about some of the injuries inflicted on them, and we were going through the coroner's reports. Yeah, it's yeah. Oh, absolutely, Frida. Absolutely, he was educated because they were saying that if they were murdered in situ, and some of these places were pitch black, especially when that somebody's liver was removed, piece of the liver was removed. The liver is one of the most difficult organs to get to, and the way that was reached in the pitch black, because he wouldn't have had a hand torch or a lantern or anything for fear of drawing attention to himself. He did that with the precision of somebody who knew exactly what he was doing, who could literally do it with his eyes shut. Yes, there were stabbings and slashings and tearings and rippings, but I often wondered, was that done to disguise the initial surgical precision used? And then, right, oh, hang on a minute, this is looking a little bit too professional. Let's hide it. If there was the opportunity to revisit those autopsies today, would our would this have been discovered? Would certain patterns to the skin or the organs, tissue, whatever, would they have revealed something more skilled than it looked? I don't know. But the removal of that piece of liver and the kidney as well, that was the other thing. There was a kidney removed, wasn't there? Yeah, the way that was carried out, that was somebody who knew exactly where to look and how to get there. So, I think, yeah, I think I've covered everything there for this one tonight. So, was that okay for everybody? I'm hoping I didn't kind of whiz through it too fast, and I hope that I covered what I needed to. It's just it is just a shame, isn't it? It's just a shame that 100 and odd years on, and we're only now actually looking at the stories of these women. All the focus has been on the murderer, all of it, and yes, that does happen a lot. Oh, thank you, Leah. It does happen a lot with some killers. Enjoy that kiss, thank you. Oh, thank you, Janet. You will get some infamous murderers. You've got like Jeffrey Dahmer. Again, I could not name a single one of his victims. I can't name any of Fred and Rose West's victims. I know one was the daughter, but I couldn't give you the name. Um, Dennis Nilsen. I can't name any of his victims either. Has anyone seen the Ripper film with Johnny Depp? Oh, yes, I have. Yes, From Hell. Yeah, I love that film, Leah. I love it. And funnily enough, that is a bit loosely based on what I've just been discussing, that Janet and I are thinking, because hang on a minute. Is it Ian Holm? Oh, what's his name? Who plays the doctor in that film? Yeah, so he is playing Sir William Withigull in it, the one who's doing the murders. The coach driver in that is John Netley. The only thing that's missing from the From Hell film is Walter Sickert. And you see, I think that Walter, he's the only one who the main target. I may as well tell you now. We can have a little chat about it, can't we? The main target, in my opinion, was Mary Jane Kelly. All of these women lived very closely to each other. They all drank in the same pubs. They all knew the same. Oh, thank you, Cassius. They all knew the same people. They frequented the same lodging houses. Some of them even, lived in the same places or in the same street next door to each other, across the road from each other. The likelihood is these women all knew each other. And it was that association that was a death sentence for 4 of them. And I believe the target was always Mary Jane Kelly. I believe that the reason that Walter Sickert was involved is that Mary Jane Kelly he was the only person who could identify her. She used to pose for him. She went to France with him. She posed for him. She used to be one of his artist models. He was an artist. He was the only person who could draw a likeness of her. Now, when there were sightings of people, that people were claiming were the Ripper, and he'd be described as having like a bit like a deerstalker hat on, being dressed as a gentleman, shabby, but as a gentleman, looking like a gentleman who'd maybe fallen on slightly hard times, and would be carrying like a parcel. Now, some people, I think, wrongly assume that the parcel was a packet of knives. I think the parcel was an oilskin that was wrapping for a painting, a likeness of Mary Jane. And I think, yes, they are, Janet. And as Janet's just mentioned, his paintings are very dark. In later life, he started, I think he'd had a couple of strokes, hadn't he? And he went a little bit odd. And he started they called it his Ripper phase. And he'd dress up as Jack the Ripper. I mean, we're talking, he was in his, 70s, 80s. And he always would put on, when he was doing his paintings, and some of these paintings are directly relating to Jack the Ripper. And again, if you go back and look, I posted some of these photographs. I think it's in, I did a video of it, didn't I? I couldn't remember if it was community post or video. It might be community post actually, but I've showed some of these these paintings that his son was claiming were related to Jack the Ripper. And when he was doing his painting, he used to put like a hat on, like a deerstalker hat, and he would put this red handkerchief and tie it round his neck, a bit like a necktie. And that was fitting in with one of the descriptions that was given of a man fleeing the scene of one of the murders. Somebody saw him, and this was the name that was passed, the description that was passed around as potentially being Jack the Ripper. And there are a lot of hidden clues in his paintings. And again, I cover those in that little video I've done showing the paintings. So yeah, if you have a minute and you want to go back and have a watch, because they're fascinating, those little hidden messages in those paintings. But I believe that was what that painting was. He was using that a bit like police would do now with a photograph. Have you seen this woman? Does anybody recognise her? Go into a pub, show it around, because she knew she was being tracked and she went into hiding. But unfortunately, her lifestyle dictated that she couldn't stay hidden for very long. Fascinating video you did. The more you look, the more you see. I know, Janet, when you see those paintings, and it's only when, like it's pointed out to you, like the Queen Victoria and the gull on her shoulder, and you're like, oh my God. Yeah. And there are lots of strange things. I mean, at some point, I should really go over the life of Sir William Withy Gull. Could he have got the ideas from press drawings? He may be. Maybe Julia. But I think more that I I think, given the content of his paintings, though, I think there's something more hidden in there. I mean, you look at that one anyway. That's really disturbing. That is really disturbing. The Camden town murders, they are really disturbing. You know, if you look at the bodies on the bed, yeah, it's to me those paintings are somebody who was there, and the way he used to talk about it as well. You know, he'd tell these stories about the Ripper. You know, it was always a great guest at dinner parties, and he would tell all these wonderful stories. But it was like he was having to relive it. And you know what they say about murderers? They can't. It's the guilt kind of comes bubbling out because they have to relive the crimes. They've got to relive the crimes. They need to talk about them. You know, it's the only way that they can find any peace. They've got to talk about it. They've got to. They can't not talk about it. Yes, Janet, a very sick mind indeed. Very. But again, we're never going to know 100%, are we? We're just not. And you know, and I'd love to hear anybody else's theories on who they think Jack is. I mean, maybe we should just have an open floor one night and everybody can throw their ideas in. But I do understand not everybody's obsessed with it as I am. So, you know, some people will just have a cursory, you know, a bit of a passing interest, but yeah, not as obsessively looking into it the way that I do. Anyway, Janet, where'd you go for your meal and what did you have to eat? Because I need to know. I'm obsessed with food and feeding people. Porklet and I had chippy for our tea.
It was bloody lovely.
Bloody lovely. And also, just while we're waiting for Julia to let me know, it's good to have an interest you want to research. I've been listening the whole time while working, really interested. Oh, thank you, Helen. Hello and hello. Oh, bloody hell. Right. Right, got to sort this out. I need to give you a blue bloody wrench, Helen. So I'm going to find my tablet. Hopefully it's not gone flat because I bloody forgot to do it last time. Right. Oh. Where the hell? Oh, I don't know where my tablet is. Is my tablet in the lounge?
What colour is it again?
It's got like a gold, a rose gold cover on it. No. Oh. All right. Sorry, Helen. You're gonna have to wait because I thought my tablet was in the. I might have took it upstairs. Oh yeah, I think it's on my bedding chest. Yeah, if you don't mind, I think it's on the bedding chest under the window. I think. Oh, you went to the curry house, did you? Lovely. Oh no, I've got to do it, Helen. It's going to drive me mad otherwise. Oh, I'm glad that you enjoyed it, though. I like knowing people are listening in. But you know me and Jack the Ripper. Can't get enough of it. So the next one, I don't know when. I'm trying to think when to do it. I might do it Sunday or Monday maybe. And we'll cover. Thank you. Oh, thank you very much. We're going to cover Elizabeth Stride. Right, Helen, prepare to be turned blue. Bear with me a second. So, and Julia, couldn't get into my old account because I'm a moron. Yeah, I knew you were. I knew you were blue, but I just keep forgetting. And I never usually have two devices going at the same time, but luckily today I do. Right. So just talk amongst yourselves I've not had a curry for ages, Frida. Trying to think what I'd have. I love my favourite. I'm a bit boring really because my favourite is chicken tikka masala.
Not as boring as me.
Korma girl.
Kioma. But I don't like spicy things.
Korma, chameleon.
You come and go. You come and go.
Oh, childish away. Right, are we ready for this? Let's turn Helen blue. Add as a moderator. Helen Happy Thoughts is now a standard moderator for your channel. A seafood curry. Now I'll tell you what, Julia. My dad came down to visit a few years ago. Oh, lamb rogan, Josh. Lamboona. And he had, it was sea bass. I forget what curry. I think it was Goan sea bass or something. I think that was what he had. And I was thinking, oh God. Oh, there you go. I'm blue, da ba dee da da da. That's me shuffle dance. That Helen. I think I've made everybody blue now. I don't think there's anybody that hasn't been. I sorted Salty out. She did tell me to basically shove it up my ass, but you know, whatever. And I managed to. It was Night Owl. I'd forgotten to turn Night Owl blue. And then luckily, I think it was Frida reminded me, or Fern, I can't remember. So, yeah. What did you have, Julia? But yeah, this sea bass thing that my dad had, this Goan sea bass. The fish was cut beautifully. I cannot fault it. It was absolutely delicious. Hang on, stop. But it just didn't go right with a curry sauce on it. It just felt a little bit heavy. Do you know what I mean? Oh, you're a porklet. You're all caught up. Elvis. I don't get that.
I think it's a song.
Oh, hang on a minute. No, it's not caught up.
It's
all shook up. Oh, good grief. Did you learn anything then, Cassius? About evil people in the 1888s couldn't even spell yeah right to get a laugh. Type with boxing gloves on elbows. I know. I think you're typing with your toes. Typing with your big toes. And guess what? Here was me. I didn't ask permission. Could I go live? Oh, shock horror.
How dare you?
Do you think I'll get a retrospective pass for going live tonight? Oh, thanks, Cassis. I'm glad you enjoyed that. The next one though that I'm going to do, it's probably not going to be as long. That's a play on words. It's Long Liz. But her story is actually quite sad. It's quite a traumatic story. So yeah, I'll probably, when I do that one, I'm not going to
go into much detail.
No, I'll go into detail, but I'll probably not carry on having a bit of a laugh and a joke afterwards, just because I think it's yeah, I just feel really bad for her. Oh shit, you're in trouble. Thunderbolts, trees flying about. No, I know. I'm just wondering how many videos will get made. how fucking dare I? My God, Kiss My Axe going live on a Friday night. She's no life. And talking about Jack the Ripper, I mean, damn. How very dare I? The gods are angry. I know. And do you know what I feel like doing as well? Maybe my theme tune should be, does anybody remember when there was the spider on the Spidey screenshot? And I can't remember who did a skit on it. I can't remember who it was, and they put the intro to Girls on Film, you know, where the camera just keeps clicking. I'm wondering whether to have that as my intro on my channel, just to make sure everybody's recording and screenshotting. Oh, my gods aren't angry, Cassius. My gods are pretty cool. It's Freya's day today. Freya's on my side. Yeah, it'd be quite funny that, wouldn't it, Janet? In fact, hang on. Hang on. I'm going to see if I can do something here. Just for the what does she call them? The nosebleeds, the peanut gallery. Oh, and then we could get Dickhead trying to put another fake copyright claim on me, can't we? Yeah, Sid has got his music. He's got a #1 in the punk charts. Yeah, so we played it.
Johnny Rocker.
Johnny Rocco, yeah, and well, we're pretty sure it's Dickhead put a copyright claim in against me for playing that music, even though the writer and owner of the song was in my chat at the time. So yeah, whatever.
He's gonna get far with that one, isn't he?
I know. What a knob.
How dare you?
Right. Are we ready? So this is dedicated to the sad asses who were sitting up in the watching and screenshotting and videoing and recording. Let's get this one sorted. Because, you know, we know that you want to be acknowledged, so I'll do my best for you. Okay. Don't want you to feel left out up there all alone. Get snapping and cracking.
Will you tell him, Coop?
Have that. And as you can see, I'm incredibly bothered and intimidated. I don't think so.
We're so executed wrong.
I know, good for Sid. It was brilliant. Duran, good looking lads. Yeah. Do you know which one I like looking at them now? I mean, I don't know what any of them look like now, but you know, if I look at like that video, and I actually, I'm not like, stop. I'm not the Simon Le Bon type of fan, or the John or Roger John Taylor type of fan. It's Roger Taylor, the drummer. Little cutie, but apparently he was a bit of a dick. So you know, whatever. Roger Taylor, the drummer from Duran Duran.
Oh yeah, there's two.
So too many Taylors. What were all the names? It was Simon Le Bon, wasn't it? John Taylor, Roger Taylor. I can't think. Who were they? Was it Andy Taylor as well, or have I made that one up?
I think it was.
Have I? Nick Rhodes, that were it. Thank you. Was that all there was? Was it John Taylor, Roger Taylor, Nick Rhodes, Simon Le Bon? Were the four of them in? Oh, is he only short, is he, Leah? Oh, I don't know that. Okay, so remembering the victims and telling their stories, good karma, so don't feel bad for believing the past type about the ladies. Oh, there were 5. Who else was in it then, Leah? So we've got 4, didn't we? Simon Le Bon, John Taylor, Roger Taylor, Nick Rhodes, and I thought it was an Andy Taylor. Was it? Oh,
I'll search it.
hang on. The guitarist who left us terminal. Oh, which guitarist is that? Portlet is busy trying to Google it.
There was an Andy Taylor.
Andy Taylor, thank you. Andy, yes, that's it. I thought there was an Andy Taylor. She made me doubt myself. I'm not very good at people in groups and
I don't
things.
really listen to Duran Duran.
I like Duran Duran. I like the music. I like playing that intro to Girls on Film.
I do prefer the other Roger Taylor though.
Oh, the Queen Roger
My
Taylor.
Roger Taylor.
Yeah, Porkley is going watching We Will Rock You in London in June for her birthday, because she's 13 and absolutely obsessed with the Beatles, Queen. Who else? Elvis.
Oh, I love Elvis so much. I think I've watched Bohemian Rhapsody and Elvis so many times that the script is engraved into my skull.
Okay. Oh, we've got a little jump. Meant to be fantastic. I don't know anything about it, Leah. I don't know. Good taste, Janet says.
Yeah.
I do like the Beatles because obviously I grew up listening to them because my mum was just massive Beatles fan. Julia likes Queen. There you go.
See, this is what I got to do. I got to get in the good books, guys.
Yeah, all the good books.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about holidays before, and I was saying I'd absolutely love to do. You know, you can get these package holidays, and you go to. Well, you get there are some people who don't like them, Helen. Strange weirdos,
it's so
but
annoying because like all the people in my class and like the majority of people at school.
Bob Dylan, absolutely, Cassius. Dated a guy who was a Spitzer John Taylor. Really? Get you? I dated a guy who looked like Frankie Lampard.
Oh my God.
No, I did. I went out with it. I mean, he was a lot taller though. He was like 6'4". I've always gone out with these really tall fellas.
And then you met him.
And then I met you. Yeah, then I met your dad. But yeah, I remember going out and they were all going, "Oh, can we have you?" Literally, he was the spits of him, asking for his autograph, and he was like, "What?"
I mean, it's not a bad person to look like.
No, but they genuinely thought he was Frankie Lampard. He was better looking than Frankie Lampard, but yeah, he was out. So, me look-alike.
It's so annoying though, because in school everyone's like, "Oh, you're well weird," because I listen to like actual music instead of something from the XAJ music. Honestly.
Yeah, but you know, you've had a good education. Oh, the viewing numbers have gone up. Just in case we've got any gibbering idiots in who are wanting to make sure they catch something. Here's a little bit. Just do it again. Make sure you catch everything. The dog doesn't like the sound of Girls on Film. Stop. Come here. Sorry, I'll stop being childish now. So, yeah, so as I said, the next one I do when I cover Long Liz Stride, Elizabeth Stride, you left all the idiots at work. Hi, Voodoo. Hello. We've finished doing the Annie Chapman coverage for this evening, so we're just having a little bit of a chat before I leave it for the evening. But I'm being a bit silly. I keep playing Girls on Film just for the people who are sitting up there recording, you know, as they do. Hope you've had a good day today, lovely lady. Yeah, like I said, with the coverage of Elizabeth Stride, I'm probably gonna just cover that, have 5 or 10 minutes afterwards, just to, you know, in case anybody wants to talk about her or what's gone on, and then I'll call an end to it, because I just think I'll be a bit upset delivering that now that I know some of the things that I know about her previous life. And I'll probably give a bit of a trigger warning to people before they come in. It may not be to everybody's taste. It's not graphic, it's just disturbing. You know, what went on in her life. So that's just a little heads up from me for now. Yeah, everybody's wishing everybody happy Friday. And do you know what I forgot to do? Buy myself a damn lottery ticket, because I got shit on by a pigeon yesterday. No, I did. It shit on me. And that is twice I've been shitted on this week. Monday, shat. Yesterday, shat.
Morgan was the other day. It got in his hair.
Yeah, this one, it landed here and it ran down my face. Oh, happy Saturday for Green Eyes. It's Saturday where she is. Early hours of the morning. Has your painter gone now, Green Eyes? So yeah, so I think tomorrow, which is Saturday here, I might risk getting a lottery ticket because I've been shat on twice. The likelihood is that third. Actually, no. Maybe I should stand under that tree. You know that's full of pigeons. Yeah, because if I get so if I get third shite lottery tonight.
Who says that?
Me.
You say a lot of things.
Third shite is doing the ceiling in the living room. Oh, is this getting the house ready for the big move?
Know all about that.
Gosh, yeah. Portlet's be moving soon. I've been doing some painting here. I know, I definitely do. Muck for luck, isn't it? But two shits in this week, Monday and yesterday. So if I can get another shite on me tomorrow, that would be quite good. Oh yeah, Voodoo. Yeah, Green Eyes is lucky move. If you remember when we did the tarot reading last year, and what her cards popped up about moving, and voila, she's buggering off. So anyway, Voodoo, you might be interested in this. So I was looking at holidays, and Portlet and I were talking about it earlier. And one of them, the package holiday, like a multi-center holiday, American ones, and there's one, and it is, hang on, well they call it Voodoo Vegas and Elvis. So you go to New Orleans, and then you go to Las Vegas, and then you go to Memphis. And I was like, oh, wow. Because I've always wanted to go to New Orleans for Mardi Gras. I mean, I know it probably wouldn't be the right timing, but I would love to be there for Mardi Gras. And then, obviously, you've got to go to Vegas.
Well,
and then...
I'd be pretty pointless at going to Vegas.
Why?
Because the whole point of it's gambling, isn't it?
Eating. You can eat.
Dirt cheap, can't you?
Yeah, everything's dirt cheap. Free holidays in the tropics. Oh, Green Eyes. Always wanted to go to New Orleans. It's been a dream of mine for so long. I know, Cassius. Oh, so it's just ended, has it, Voodoo? And I never knew where when it was, but yeah, it just it's so beautiful, isn't it, Cassius? New Orleans, absolutely beautiful. So yeah, I was thinking, oh, I actually fancy doing that. I think the only other place that I would want to go, because there was another one which was the Florida Keys. I can't remember.
Orlando.
Oh yeah, there was an Orlando one, so that was like the theme parks, and then there was another one which was going to Hawaii as well, and I was like, yeah, I thought, I'd love that.
Yeah, but then a volcano will go.
Yeah, maybe, but be right, be all
At least
right.
we'll get to stay there for longer.
I know. You've been to Hollywood and Vegas. Oh, have you, Julian? Did you like them? Mardi Gras, yeah. That's it. Kiss Say made the whole place fascinates me. It's just so beautiful, isn't it? All these colonial buildings, and I just think it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Such a beautiful place. Oh, and you miss it. Oh, Florida Keys bucket list. I know. And like the Bahamas, and yeah, that's it. Cassius, Route 66. Clickety clicks. It's like I would like to go to New York. I've got a friend who lives in New York. He's very wealthy doctor actually, who lives in the same apartment building as Julia Roberts. She knew. But when my friends were going to New York, 2019 it was. I rang him and I said, Jason, can you give me some tips as to, you know, um, where to go? And yeah, I came back with a big list of, you know, the best places to eat, the cheapest places, the expensive places, the place to get the best steak, which areas to avoid, what times to go to. And it was like this massive running itinerary. It was fantastic. Oh, your sister lives there. Oh, brilliant. Yeah, I mean, Texas, everything's bigger in Texas. All my exes live in Texas. Don't look at me like that, you little shit.
Whoa, profanity.
Absolutely. Oh, is it? Got some good history as well. Yeah, I'm trying to think where I would probably like. I think as well. You know, like Cape Cod and Boston and Salem. You know, gotta go to Salem. Yeah, there are a lot of places. I mean, you've got the whole world. Yeah. Oh, yes, of course. Dealey Plaza. That's another crime I'm fascinated with.
I think we should go to America and then go on the prowl for Gerard Butler.
Yeah, America. I'm so jealous. The roads are so wide. The country's amazing. Do you know what I loved? Did anybody see the film Michael?
With what's his
John
face? John
Travolta plays
Travolta,
the
yeah,
angel,
yeah.
and they go to these weird places like the biggest ball of string, or you know, that's the type of thing I'd like to do. Go to the most ridiculous places. But I'll tell you one place I wouldn't be going to: Yosemite. Cooper, stop. Just because of the all the missing people, missing 411, I'd be too scared.
To where?
Yosemite, the national parks in America.
Right.
Oh, Egypt. I think the other places, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I am fairly well travelled. I haven't been to America, obviously. Uh, Australia been twice. Haven't, I was such an idiot. The second time I went, what I should have done was go to New Zealand, and I didn't. I went to flipping Thailand instead, which was brilliant. But I wished I'd gone to, always wish now that I'd gone to New Zealand while I was down there, because I kept thinking I'll probably never go again. And I want to go to Hobbiton. I want to go to in a hobbit burrow because I'm the right size and everything, you know. So, um, but I loved Thailand, loved it, loved Australia. Yeah, New Zealand is my bucket list. I've been to Jamaica. I've been to St Vincent and the Grenadines, Bequia. Uh, where else have I gone far flung? And then obviously, you know, the usual Turkey. I've been to a lot of the Greek islands. Italy. I lived in Italy. Lived in Greece actually. Lived just above Athens for 6 months. Um, you know, and then you've got the Northern Europe. You know, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Iceland. So there's so many wonderful places. But I think if America would be a once in a lifetime one for me, and I'd want to pull the stops out, and I'd probably go, you know what? Never mind 7 days. I want to go for 21. And you know,
We should go for like a tour around America and just do things that the in-betweeners do.
oh yeah.
We should just do that and then be like, all the Americans would be like, British people.
Yeah. Italy's beautiful, Cassius. I love Italy. I love Italy. Because I started off, I lived up near Lake Garda. Spent a little, the family that I was staying with had a place in Rome as well. And then I went and moved and lived in Sicily before I came home. But yeah, absolutely loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Yeah, Austria is beautiful voodoo. Austria is Salzburg and Vienna. Spanish riding school, I went twice to see them. Absolutely gorgeous. France, not so much. I'm not that fussed on France. Went with an ex-boyfriend. We thought we were being really cool, staying near the Moulin Rouge. Didn't realise it was full of um, thieves, vagabonds, immigrants, and what was even worse were there were lots of male prostitutes, but they were dressed as women, and you'd have like great big rippling, muscled, tattooed, bearded women that were rough as fuck. My ex ended up, he bought a knife and he put it down his sock because we were that convinced we were going to get like mugged, raped, and murdered. So I said after that, I'm never staying in France again, ever.
Honestly.
And
France was
this,
awful when I
oh,
went.
you went as well, didn't you?
Mm.
But this was prior to the whole immigration crisis. So yeah, love Greece all day long. I love the Greek people. I think they're fabulous. I would like to go to Romania to Dracula's castle. I'd love that. And I also would like to go to Ravaniemi. So we're laughing at the dog. He's like making himself a space on the sofa. Okay, Julie, see you in a second, lovely. Like France, except the people. With my ex-husband's twang, we were targets. Oh gosh. What was his twang, voodoo queen? Yeah, I just just France just wasn't for me. Um But, I'm saying all of this, we've got some amazing places in this country. You look at the Lake District, go to Scotland, go to the Inner and Outer Hebrides. There's some beautiful place. Oh, his fucking natural voice. Oh my goodness. Go on. Why did that make him a target? Did he just sound like he was like retarded or something? Call me a coopy. But yeah, there's so many places you can go. I mean, like I said, I was looking at these holidays and I was thinking like, oh my God, I'd love to go on this like a touring holiday of America. But then by the same token, I'm like, but I could go for 2 weeks on an all-inclusive smoking shit hot
In
holiday
Greece.
at one of the best locations in Greece you could possibly go.
Cooper, don't even think about it.
It was like, hey, we're American. Oh, okay. um Trying to think where else. Like we used to go every year. We'd go to Germany on the motorbikes, around the Black Forest, and then we'd well, Austria and Germany, Cochem, Hockenheim, staying at different places. Absolutely loved it. Beautiful, beautiful areas. So yeah, there are lots and lots and lots of places to still visit. But and like I said the other day, the Norwegian fjords. Beautiful. If you've never been to Norway, just sell a kidney to be able to afford to live there. Like Dar said, unless you're earning a Norwegian salary, it's 10, 12, 13 pounds for a pint of beer. It's very expensive. Iceland is the same, although I loved Iceland. I had a great time. It was quite funny that we went for my friend's birthday and we were just we were single at the time, all of us, and we were just walking around going, oh my God, the men are absolutely gorgeous. They were Vikings, big, everybody over 6 foot tall, big muscle, blonde. Yeah. And the dog has now sat right on me.
Don't even think about it.
Oh, are you, Julie? Whereabouts are you going? Oh, it is Cassius. It's incredibly expensive. All inclusive is the way now. Spain, not. Yeah, well, that's what we were saying. We found this. Found two actually amazing resorts. One in Rhodes, and the other in Cos. All inclusive. I was like, oh gosh. Now I'll tell you where my sister likes going though, Frida. Alcudia. She goes all inclusive there. Alcudia. But you may as well. I mean, I've only ever been all inclusive once, and that was in Jamaica.
all inclusive was the best thing ever when I went to Lanzarote.
Yeah.
Honestly, the amount of burgers and entire cucumbers that I ingested was honestly like you could get like cucumbers like that long and you could just pick them up and just bite them. And I probably had like 5 a day. I was sat there chomping on a cucumber.
Flipping, I don't know if any of you heard all of that. Oh, cocktails, yeah. I love cocktails. Do you know though, I like old school cocktails. I do like some of the more modern, some of them, not all, but I'm a bugger for a pina colada.
Oh my god, Mum and Alex were.
I love pina coladas, and then see, I've got to be careful because I'm allergic to oranges. So things like tequila sunrises, you know, they contain orange juice. I've got to be really careful. But yeah, I thought you trumped then.
No, it's your knuckles.
But yeah, when we went all inclusive, it wasn't just like food and drink. I mean, obviously, at the alcohol, God Almighty, I got so drunk. But the hotel we were staying in at the time included cigarettes as well. So if you were a smoker, you got your fags free. I mean, they were local fags and they tasted shit, but you know. I mean, the other one, and I've always wanted to go on a safari holiday, Kenya. You know, in one of those, yeah, you know those the lodges that they stay in.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not going far from the place of my birth, then, Julia. And actually, you're going up near where Leah lives. So I'm well. Oh, and Glencoe as well. I love Glencoe. Glencoe, it's beautiful when it's sunny, but you really just get a feel for it when it's that overcast drizzle that it is most of the time. Same as in Fort William. A friend of mine goes to the Moray Coast every year and stays in a little fisherman's cottage. It's actually a local fisherman owns this, and he brings them fresh fish every day. She said when they go out and it's literally there onto the shingle beach, the seals come right up to the shingle beach. Hang on a minute, Cooper, stop! Don't do it! Don't. When I start to get given those shots without knowing what they do to you, I don't like them too much. Cooper, stop it! Used to love Long Island iced teas. I've never had one. Kamikachis, is that how you say that? Oh, your daughter likes a cruises. Oh yeah, yes you are, Leah. Sorry. Oh no, it's is it Dolly Mixture who's up at Inverness? I think it's Dolly Mixture, isn't it? Sorry, I get people mixed up sometimes as to whereabouts they are. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know whether I'd enjoy a cruise or not. I don't know. Might do. I could never say never, as they say. But I think a cruise round, I don't know, Mediterranean cruise would probably sound really nice. So yeah, I'm just in the holiday bug mood at the moment. Has anyone got anything booked for this year yet? I'm sure somebody said the other day that they'd booked a holiday, and I can't remember who that was. But I might have been lying and dreamt it. So, oh, Colorado for Christmas. Are you going skiing or anything, Voodoo Queen? Port Knocket. What is that for summer, Julia? Thought about a cruise. I know, Cassie. I think. Do you know what I think? I don't think I would like one of the formal cruises. Oh, lovely. Oh, I bet that'll be amazing for you. I would like to go to Whistler. My cousin's up in Vancouver, and he's always been mithering me because he used to come over here and we'd all snowboard together and what have you. So yeah, at some point, I maybe would like to do that. You'd be scared of missing the ship. I know, Frida, that's me. They'd go without me and I'd be left stranded somewhere with no passport. I have to sell my soul to Satan to get home. So, well, what I'm going to do, guys and gals, is I'm going to call it a night because I've done 2 hours and 15 minutes, which will no doubt be commented on because I didn't ask permission to come live, as you'll know, or to talk about what I wanted to talk about, but whatever. Hopefully, retrospectively, I'll be granted permission. Care I not. So I am going to call it a night, and I will be back maybe Sunday or Monday. But I'll give you a lot of advance warning when I'm going to cover, whichever night I decide to cover the story of Elizabeth Stride. Now I might do that first, or I may just come on for a natter with everybody, and then come on again maybe the next night to do Elizabeth's story. So, I hope everyone has an awesome weekend. Thank you, Voodoo. I hope you and Bedtime have a lovely time. Enjoy yourselves. Night, Leah, thank you for coming in, love. Frida, you'd like to try a cruise. Janet, thank you, kiss everyone in chat. Enjoyed the evening. See you on the next one. Oh, thank you, Janet. Thanks for coming in and the support. Really appreciate it. And I'm glad you've enjoyed what we were talking about. And obviously don't forget, anybody's got any suggestions for a live, any topics that you want me to cover, I'm happy to do that. Moray Coast Village, where we stationed for a week, then travel back down. Oh, that sounds like it's going to be amazing, Julie. I hope you have a lovely time. Thanks so much for an interesting live. Oh, thank you, Frida. Thank you. Helen, great live kiss. Thanks for keeping me entertained while working. Thank you for a great. Oh, thank you, Helen. Thank you, Green Eyes. Thank you, everybody. And so I will see you all. Dogman. Oh, should we do Dogman and then Dogman before? Sorry, could you hear him then shouting upstairs? Yeah, Dogman, and then we'll do the Ripper victim. How about that? Okay, so lovely chat. Enjoyed your life. Have a good weekend. Oh, thanks, Cassius, love. You too. Enjoy yourself. Teach a course on how to choose a baseball bat. Yes, actually, Voodoo, that's a really good point. Yeah, I'll tell you in a bit. Mind and ask permission next time. Cassius, the day I ask permission will be a cold day, and Ellen will be out showing me ass on the town hall steps. But anyway, there we go. Thanks, Julia, and wish you. Oh, sorry. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear. It's Paul, isn't it? Paul. Happy birthday to you. But I might have to go, happy birthday, Julie's husband, in case I got the name wrong, because I'm sure it's Paul, but I can't remember. Happy birthday to you. All three of us. Keep. Stop now. Oh, God. Stop him. So sorry about that. We kind of got the dog decided to go a little bit OTT on the happy birthday to Julie's husband.
I sang happy birthday to Papa in Korean.
Oh yeah, she sang happy birthday. Oh yeah, sing happy birthday to Julie's husband in Korean. Here you go before we go.
Wait. It is right. I think it's the correct pronunciation, but oh well.
Okay, go on.
네가 슈가합니다. 네가 슈가합니다. 네가 슈가합니다. 네가 슈가합니다.
There you go. That's happy birthday to your lovely husband in Korean, Julia. UFOs, I see my first some on Monday morning. No. Oh, Frida, you can't drop that into us right at the end of a bleeding live. Hubby's birthday today too, 1st of April. Oh, hang on then, hang on. I've got to do it again. And it's John.
Okay.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear John. Happy birthday to you. Do you want to sing it in Korean for John as well?
Oh my god.
Here we go.
네가 슈가합니다. 네가 슈가합니다. 네가 슈가합니다. 네가 슈가합니다.
There you go. Multilingual in this house tonight. Happy bitter green eyes husband. Do you think here he comes?
Oh,
Types without.
Paul, we got it right.
Oh, I thought it was Julie. How did I remember that? Happy bitter green eyes husband. Happy birthday, green eyes husband. I'm guessing that should have been Cassius. And it's Johnny. Johnny, remember me. I don't know. Cash is killing me with his typos. He's killing everybody with his typos. I can't write in English and you're singing it in Chinese. It's Korean, love.
Chili.
Johnny says thank you. Is he home, Green Eyes? Oh dear. You're blaming the iPad. Do you know what? A bad workman always blames his tools, Cassius. Always. Thank you, Pork. Oh, brilliant. Right. On that note, is there any more birthdays that we need to sing? Oh, hang on a minute. Hang on a minute.
On.
Right, hang on. I'm trying to think here. Haven't we got Lady Witch and if I don't know where Lady Witch has gone, if she's still listening. It's Lady Witch and Denny's birthday's coming up, isn't it? At the beginning of April. And I hope that's not tomorrow. Off for 3 weeks to do bits of jobs. Oh gosh, did you hear the terrible singing then? Yeah, I'm sure. I'm absolutely sure it is. We've got 2 birthdays coming up. Let me have a little look. Wait a momento. I'm going to see if I can check my calendar on my my tablet. I don't know if it's linked up to my phone, but if it is, I'm going to see. Yeah, they're on the. I know that they're on the same day. I'm just trying to remember which day. Let me have a sneaky picky. Right. If you lose me, I will be straight back. But I need to have a little look. Right, give me 1 second, guys. I am coming straight back. Stop you. Stop.
Yeah, stop.
Oh, it's on Sunday. Right. Okay, I'm back and it is Lady Witches and Tismy Denny's on Sunday. So the second, I knew it was the beginning of April. So yes, I might have to come live on Sunday then, and we can all sing to Lady Witch and to Tismy Denny. I'll need to send her a text actually, see how she is. And yeah, so and guess what? I won't be asking permission if I can go live either. What a rebel I am. Right, so all you lovely lot, have a wonderful evening. Have a fantastic weekend. If I don't speak to you before, I will try and come on Sunday. And yeah, so lots of love. Good night from Porklet.
Good night.
Good night from Cooper. Woof. And good night from me. And see you on the bright side.